Hey there, and welcome. It's that time of night. The day is done. You're in bed, and it's quiet. But your mind isn't quiet at all, is it? It's still going. Maybe it's replaying a conversation from earlier. Or maybe it's making a list of all the things you need to do tomorrow. That endless list that just seems to grow the more you think about it. It's frustrating when your body is tired, but your brain just won't get the message. We all think a good night's sleep starts when we close our eyes. But that's not really true. A calm mind at night is actually the result of a calmer day. And that's what we're going to talk about. Not big, life-changing habits you have to force yourself to do. Just 10 simple mind hacks. Small psychological tricks that can help take the edge off your day, making everything feel just a little bit lighter. We'll talk about a simple way to get started on something you've been avoiding. We'll look at what to do with those worries when they pop into your head, so they don't follow you to bed. We'll even talk about why your brain gets stuck on unfinished tasks, and how to give it permission to let go. These are just little shifts in how you see things. So, you don't have to take notes or even remember all of this. The goal here is just to relax. Find a comfortable spot, take a slow, deep breath, and just listen. Let the ideas wash over you as you get ready to drift off. Alright, let's start with our first mind hack. It's a simple one. It's called the 2-minute rule. And the idea is exactly what it sounds like. If a task comes up that will take you less than 2 minutes to complete, you do it immediately. Not later. Not in a little while. Right now. At first, this might sound like a productivity tip, something to help you get more things done during a busy day. But the real reason we're starting with this is for the opposite effect. It's not about doing more. It's about giving your mind less to hold on to. Think of your brain like a computer desktop. Throughout the day, every time you decide to put something off, you're opening a new window. You get home from work and you take your shoes off in the middle of the living room floor. A tiny thought appears. I should put those away. And you think to yourself, I'll do it later. And in your mind, a little window just popped open. It's minimized, but it's still running. You finish your dinner and leave your plate on the coffee table. I'll get that in a second, you tell yourself. Another window opens. You open a letter, and instead of throwing the envelope in the recycling bin right next to you, you leave it on the counter. Pop. Another window. One or two of these isn't a big deal. The problem is that by the end of the day, your mental desktop is covered in dozens of these open windows. And even though they're small, they're all running in the background. They create a kind of low-level hum of unfinished business, a feeling of disorganization. And your brain, which loves to finish things and close loops, has to keep track of it all. It has a running list of all the tiny things you said you would do later. So what happens when you finally turn off the lights and lie down to sleep? Your brain finally has a quiet moment. And what does it do? It starts trying to close all of those open windows. It reminds you of the shoes on the floor. It reminds you of the plate on the table. It flashes an image of the mail on the counter, the jacket on the chair, the email you meant to reply to. Each one is a tiny little pulse of mental energy. A small stressor that pulls you away from the calm you're looking for. This is what the 2-minute rule is designed to prevent. It's not about becoming a perfect, tidy person overnight. It's about self-kindness. Every time you use it, you're closing one of those windows the moment it appears. You put your shoes away as soon as you take them off. You just closed a window. It's done. Your mind doesn't have to track it anymore. You take your plate to the kitchen. Closed. You throw the envelope away. Closed. Each action takes almost no physical effort. But the mental reward is huge. You are slowly, quietly, reducing the amount of clutter your brain has to manage. You are easing its burden one tiny task at a time, so that when your head finally hits the pillow, your mental desktop is clear. There are no more windows popping up, begging for your attention. There's just quiet and space, the kind of space you need to drift off to sleep. Let's move on to the second idea. This one is about what to do with those worries. You know the ones that get stuck in your head and just go around and around. It's like a broken record, playing the same line over and over. A thought about something you said in a meeting. a worry about a bill that's due next week, a nagging feeling that you forgot to do something important. Inside our heads, these thoughts feel huge. They're loud, they're messy, and they don't have a clear shape. They just float around, creating a feeling of anxiety and stress that can be hard to pin down. And when you're lying in bed, in the quiet and the dark, those thoughts can seem even louder. So here is the hack. Write them down. It sounds almost too simple to work, but there's a real reason why this is so effective. When a worry is in your mind, it's just an electrical signal, an abstract concept. Your brain's job is to keep it front and center so you don't forget it. It's trying to be helpful, constantly reminding you, hey, don't forget about this scary thing. But the moment you take that thought and put it on a piece of paper, everything changes. You have to find the right words to describe it. You have to give it a sentence, a structure, a beginning and an end. The act of writing forces the messy, abstract worry to become a concrete, specific thing. And something amazing happens when you do that. The thought suddenly looks smaller. It looks more manageable. That big, scary feeling of, I'm so behind on work, becomes a simple sentence on a page. I need to finish the quarterly report. It's no longer a feeling of doom. It's a task. It's just a thing on a list. Think of it like this. You've told your brain, hey, I heard you. I know this is important. I've saved it. You've captured it. And by writing it down, you are giving your brain permission to finally let it go. You've essentially promised your mind that you won't forget, because there's now a physical record of it. So here's how you can try this. Keep a simple notebook by your bed. It doesn't have to be a fancy journal. A simple notepad and a pen will do. And about an hour before you plan to sleep, just sit with it for a few minutes. This is what some people call a brain dump. Write down everything that comes to mind. The big stuff, the small stuff, the silly stuff. I need to call my mom back. Did I come across as rude in that email? I have to remember to pick up milk tomorrow. I'm worried about that strange noise my car is making. Don't judge the thoughts. Don't try to solve them. The goal isn't to fix all your problems right now. The goal is simply to get them out of your head and onto the paper, to clear the space. When you're done, you close the notebook. This small physical act is powerful. It's a symbol to your mind that the thinking part of the day is over. These worries are now safely stored for tomorrow. They will be there waiting for you in the morning if you need them. But for tonight, their job is done. And so is your brain's. It can finally stop spinning that wheel, and it can find the quiet and the stillness that you need to fall asleep. Now for our third mind hack. This one is about a voice that a lot of us have in our heads. The one that whispers, it's not good enough yet. This is the voice of perfectionism. And we're often taught that perfectionism is a good thing, that it's a sign that you have high standards, that you care about what you do. But when it comes to having a calm mind, perfectionism can be your worst enemy. Here's why. The perfectionist's job is never truly done. There's always one more tweak, one more improvement, one more thing to check. It creates a constant state of feeling like you're not quite finished. Imagine you've cleaned the entire kitchen. It's sparkling, but then the perfectionist voice points out a tiny watermark on one of the glasses in the cupboard, or a little crumb you missed behind the toaster. And suddenly, the feeling of accomplishment is gone. It's replaced by a nagging feeling of incompletion. Your brain doesn't register the task as done. It registers it as almost done, which is just another way of saying not done. So what happens is you end your day with a long list of these almost done tasks. The work project that you check for the 10th time, but still feel isn't quite right. The email you spent an hour writing because you were searching for the absolute perfect words. The closet you organized that still doesn't look like the ones in the magazines. Your day becomes a story of things you didn't get perfect, instead of a story of things you accomplished. And when you get into bed, that voice comes with you. It starts replaying all those imperfections. It reminds you of the watermark. It reminds you of that one sentence in the email you wish you had phrased differently. It keeps the tasks open, buzzing with a low-grade anxiety. The mind hack here is to embrace the power of good enough. This does not mean you should be lazy or do sloppy work. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about recognizing the point where you can stop. It's about knowing when a thing is finished and giving yourself permission to let it be finished. It's learning to say, "The kitchen is clean enough for tonight. This email clearly communicates what I need to say, and that is good enough. This project is complete, and I am proud of the work I did." When you do this, you're changing the story of your day. You're consciously choosing to close the loop on your tasks. Think of the energy you spend on that last 5%. Getting something from 95% done to 100% perfect can take as much effort as the first 95%. But is the result really that different? Is it worth the cost to your peace of mind? Probably not. So throughout your day, start noticing that voice. When you hear it telling you something isn't good enough yet, just pause. Ask yourself, is this truly not finished, or am I just chasing perfect? By choosing good enough, you are making a trade. You are trading that last, stressful 5% of effort for a feeling of completeness and peace. You're allowing your brain to check things off its list, to truly put them away. And when you lie down to sleep, instead of a mind full of imperfections and unfinished work, you have a mind that feels settled. A mind that knows the day's work is done. Not perfectly, just done. And that is more than good enough. This next idea is about making your day feel a little smoother, a little more automatic, so that you don't have to use so much mental energy just to get through it. So many of us go to bed feeling a sense of guilt or frustration over the good things we wanted to do but didn't. We wanted to stretch or read a chapter of a book or just take 5 minutes to breathe, but the day just happened. And now, in the quiet of the night, our brain reminds us of these small failures, adding to the feeling that we're not quite keeping up. The problem isn't usually a lack of desire. It's a lack of a clear trigger. We rely on willpower alone to remember and then act, and willpower is a battery that drains throughout the day. So, this hack is about taking willpower out of the equation. It's called habit stacking. The concept is incredibly simple. You take a new habit that you want to create, and you stack it directly on top of a current, established habit. You anchor the action you want to do to an action you already do without even thinking about it. Your brain loves patterns and routines. It creates deep, well-worn pathways for your daily habits, like brushing your teeth, making your morning coffee, or taking off your shoes when you get home. These actions are on autopilot. Habit stacking is about finding one of these superhighways in your brain and building a little exit ramp for your new habit. You're not trying to carve a new road through the forest. You're just adding a small turn to a road you travel every single day. Let's think about how this works. Say you want to get into the habit of feeling more grateful, something that can genuinely help calm your mind before sleep. The instruction, "be more grateful," is too vague. It will never happen. But you brush your teeth every single night. That is a deeply ingrained habit. So you create a rule. After I finish brushing my teeth, I will think of one good thing that happened today. Suddenly, the act of putting your toothbrush down becomes the trigger for your new habit. You don't have to remember to do it. Your toothbrush remembers for you. This removes the entire mental load of deciding when and how you're going to be grateful. The decision is already made. This works for anything. Maybe your goal is to reduce the anxiety of a cluttered home, which we know can lead to a cluttered mind at night. You can make a rule. When I finish my morning coffee, I will take 1 cup and put it in the dishwasher. You're not committing to cleaning the whole kitchen. It's just 1 cup. It's a 2-minute action stacked on a habit you would never skip. Or perhaps work stress follows you home and keeps your mind racing in bed. You can stack a habit to create a boundary. The moment I close my laptop for the day, I will stand up and stretch for 30 seconds. This tiny action acts as a mental divider, signaling to your brain that the work part of the day is officially over. It's a full stop, a way of preventing the stress from bleeding into your personal time. What this does, over time, is it automates goodness in your day. It creates small, positive loops that run without requiring your precious mental energy. Each time you complete a stack, you get a tiny feeling of accomplishment instead of a nagging feeling of failure. It's a quiet win. And a day filled with these quiet wins, these moments where you followed through on a promise to yourself without a big internal struggle, leads to a much more peaceful state of mind. You aren't lying in bed thinking about all the things you should have done. Instead, your mind is quieter because your day felt less like a battle against yourself and more like a gentle, predictable flow. The mind hack we're going to talk about now is perhaps the most important one for protecting your peace, especially in the quiet hours of the night. It's about the stories you tell yourself. Throughout the day, things happen. Someone says something in a certain tone, you make a small mistake at work, or you find yourself stuck in traffic. These are just neutral events, but they don't stay neutral for long because your brain immediately creates a story about them. And unfortunately, our brains are often wired to tell negative stories. This isn't a personal failing. It's a very old survival mechanism. Your brain's default setting is to scan for danger, to look for what's wrong, because for thousands of years, that's what kept us safe. The problem is that ancient programming doesn't know the difference between a tiger in the bushes and a slightly critical email from your boss. It treats both as threats, and it spins a story of danger and failure. And these stories are what keep you awake. The day is over, the events are done, but the negative story you've attached to them is on a loop, playing over and over in your head. It sounds like, I can't believe I said that. I sounded so stupid. Or, my boss thinks I'm incompetent. I'm definitely going to lose my job. Or even, I'm always late. I can never get anything right. These thoughts are heavy. They create feelings of shame, anxiety, and fear, which are like fuel for a sleepless night. You lie there in the dark, and your mind just torments you with a highlight reel of all your perceived mistakes and shortcomings from the day. It feels awful, and it feels very, very true. But here's the secret. Just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean you have to believe it. The practice we're talking about is called reframing. And it's not about lying to yourself. It's not about forcing yourself to think positive, happy thoughts when you feel bad. That rarely works and can often feel fake. Reframing is simpler and it's more honest. It's the act of questioning your first story and then looking for a different story that is also true but less painful. It's about becoming a gentle investigator of your own thoughts. You take that negative story that your brain automatically produced and you just hold it up to the light and ask, is this the only way to see this? Is this story 100% accurate? Let's walk through an example. Imagine you sent an email to a coworker and they replied with a very short, one-word answer. Your brain's instant negative story might be, they're mad at me. I must have said something to offend them. This thought immediately creates a feeling of anxiety. So you pause. You catch the story, and then you gently question it. Is it 100% certain that they are mad at you? Could there be another story? Story number 2 might be, they are incredibly busy today and are just trying to get through their inbox quickly. Story number 3 could be, they're on their phone and it's hard to type a long reply. Story number 4, they are a direct person who just gets straight to the point. Notice that you don't know which story is the real one. But now, they're mad at me is just one possibility among many, instead of the absolute truth. You have successfully taken the power away from the negative thought. You have reframed the situation. You can do this with anything. Did you make a mistake at work? The first story is, I'm terrible at my job. The reframe is, I'm human, and humans make mistakes. What can I learn from this so I can improve? Did you lose your patience with someone? The first story is, I'm a bad person. The reframe is, I was feeling stressed and I didn't handle that moment well. I can apologize and try to be more mindful next time. This isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about replacing harsh, useless self-judgment with a perspective that is kinder and more productive. It stops the negative spiral. By practicing this during the day, You are actively defusing the little bombs that would otherwise go off in your mind at night. You are training your brain to find a more balanced, more peaceful narrative. So when you finally lay your head on the pillow, there are far fewer negative stories left to tell. There is simply a quieter, gentler space for you to rest. Have you ever had a song stuck in your head? Not the whole song, usually. It's almost always just one little piece of it, a line from the chorus or a catchy riff, playing on an endless, maddening loop. Or think about a movie that ends on a huge cliffhanger. That story stays with you for days, and your mind keeps trying to figure out what happens next. It feels unresolved, and it's hard to let go of. This feeling, this mental stickiness that clings to unfinished things, isn't just a weird quirk. It's a well-documented psychological principle, and understanding it can be incredibly helpful for quieting your mind, especially at the end of the day when all the unfinished business seems to come calling. This phenomenon is known as the Zeigarnik effect. It was named after a psychologist who, story has it, was sitting in a busy Vienna cafe. She noticed something strange. The waiters had a seemingly perfect memory for incredibly complex orders that were still in progress. They could remember who ordered which drink, who wanted extra sauce, and which table was still waiting for their food. But the moment the bill was paid and the table was cleared, the waiters couldn't remember the order at all. It was as if their brain had completely deleted the file. The conclusion was simple but profound. Our brains are specifically designed to remember things that are incomplete. An unfinished task creates a kind of tension in our minds, and our brain keeps it in our active memory to ensure we don't forget to go back and finish it. So, let's think about what this means for your day-to-day life. Every task you start but don't finish becomes one of these open loops in your brain. That work report you started drafting but had to set aside. That important phone call you meant to make but didn't have the time for. The pile of laundry you meant to fold. The conversation you started with a friend that got interrupted. Each one of these is like an unpaid bill in that cafe. Your brain, trying to be a diligent waiter, keeps all of these orders active in your head. It constantly sends you little mental nudges, little reminders that these things are still open. It doesn't do this to annoy you. It's just trying to do its job to make sure you don't drop the ball. But at 11 o'clock at night, when you're trying to find a peaceful state of mind, this helpfulness feels like a relentless and stressful interruption. The solution to the Zeigarnik effect isn't to become a machine that finishes every single thing it starts. That's impossible, and trying to do so would just create more stress. The hack is far more simple and much kinder. All you have to do is make a plan. When your brain is nagging you about an unfinished task, it's not actually demanding that you do it right now. All it wants is the reassurance that the task won't be forgotten. It wants a sense of closure, and you can give it that closure simply by deciding when and how you will handle it. Take out that notebook again, and for any nagging, unfinished business, you don't just write down the task. You write down the very next step and when you're going to take it. So, finish the work report becomes tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. After I get my coffee, I will open the document and write the summary paragraph. This small act of specific planning is incredibly powerful. It works like magic on your brain. By creating a concrete plan, you have signaled to your mind that the task is officially handled. It's been scheduled. The open loop has, in a sense, been closed. Your brain can now release that mental tension. It can take the item off its high alert list and file it away, trusting that the plan will take care of it. You've essentially told your inner waiter, "It's okay. This table's order has been taken care of. You can let it go now." You haven't finished the work, but you have finished the worrying about the work. And as you lay in bed, that's what truly matters. You are letting your brain off the hook, giving it the permission it needs to stop managing your to-do list and finally get some rest. Let's talk about those tasks. The ones you know you should do, the ones that hang over your head all day, but that you just don't want to do. It could be folding the laundry, answering a backlog of emails, or tidying up the kitchen before bed. These aren't usually hard tasks, but they feel like a drag. They require a kind of activation energy that, by the end of the day, you just don't have. So you put them off. And in doing so, you create a very specific kind of mental noise. It's the low hum of procrastination. It's a mix of guilt for not doing the thing and a lingering dread of knowing you still have to do it eventually. This feeling is a quiet thief of peace, and it loves to become loud the moment your head hits the pillow. So here is a way to work with your brain, not against it. It's a beautifully simple idea called temptation bundling. The name sounds a little fancy, but the concept is something you might have naturally discovered as a child. It's about bundling together something you should do with something you want to do. More specifically, you create a rule for yourself where you are only allowed to enjoy a specific pleasure while you are doing one of those tedious, dreaded tasks. You are linking a reward directly to the chore, making the chore the gatekeeper to the treat. This isn't about rewarding yourself after the fact. It's about making the unpleasant task itself more enjoyable in the moment. Think about how this could feel. Maybe you have a favorite podcast, one that feels like listening to old friends. With temptation bundling, you make a new rule. You only listen to that podcast while you are cleaning the kitchen or tidying the living room. Suddenly, the thought of cleaning the kitchen is transformed. It's no longer just a chore. It becomes your special podcast time. You might even start to look forward to it, because it's your protected time to catch up on the latest episode. Or maybe there's a comforting TV show that you love to watch, one that doesn't require too much brain power. The rule becomes, you only watch that show while you are folding laundry. The mountain of clothes is no longer a symbol of domestic failure. It's an invitation to spend 45 minutes in a fictional world you love. This technique is so effective because it flips the script in your mind. The task shifts from being a source of pain to being a source of pleasure. The resistance just melts away because the task is no longer standing alone. It's bundled with an experience you genuinely crave. And by doing this, you are short-circuiting the entire cycle of procrastination. You're not spending your evening hours feeling guilty about the mess in the kitchen. You're not lying in bed with the nagging thought of wrinkled clothes in the dryer still echoing in your mind. You are getting the necessary things done, but you're doing them in a way that replenishes you instead of drains you. What this ultimately does for your end-of-day mindset is profound. A day where you dreaded a task and avoided it is a day that ends with a feeling of incompletion and slight personal failure. But a day where you bundled that same task with something you love is a day that ends with a feeling of quiet accomplishment. You handled your responsibilities, but you were kind to yourself in the process. You turned a moment of potential drudgery into a moment of self-care. As you settle in for the night, your mind is clearer. The lists are shorter. The nagging voices of unfinished chores are silent, replaced by the pleasant memory of a story you listened to or a show you enjoyed. You've given yourself one less thing to worry about, and in doing so, you've created more space for sleep. Let's explore an idea that, on the surface, looks like a productivity tool, but is secretly one of the kindest things you can do for your mind. It addresses a very modern problem, the feeling that you need to be on all the time. Our days, especially if we work at a computer, can easily become one long, unbroken stretch of mental effort. We sit down in the morning and, apart from a quick lunch, we just go. We push through the afternoon lull. We answer one more email. We check one more thing. We think this is how we get things done. But what we're actually doing is training our brain to stay in a state of high alert for hours and hours on end. And then we get into bed and we ask that same brain, which has been sprinting a mental marathon all day, to just suddenly stop and be quiet. It doesn't know how. We haven't let it practice resting. The hack to fix this is a technique called Pomodoro. It was named after a simple, tomato-shaped kitchen timer, and the method is just as simple. You decide on a task, you set a timer for 25 minutes, and you work on that single task without interruption. When the timer goes off, you stop. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a sentence. You stop. And then, and this is the most important part, you take a mandatory 5-minute break. After that short break, you can start another 25-minute session. It's a simple rhythm. Focus, then rest. Work, then pause. Over and over. Now, again, people use this to get more done, but we are using it for the exact opposite reason. We are using it to guarantee that we get our rest. Think about the usual way we work. We often tell ourselves we'll take a break in a little bit, or after I finish this one thing. But that moment never quite arrives. There's always another one thing. By using an external timer, you are taking your own willpower and your own guilt out of the decision-making process. It's not you deciding to stop. The timer is telling you to stop. It's a permission slip to step away from your screen without feeling like you're being lazy. That 5-minute break is not for scrolling on your phone, which is often just another form of mental work. That break is for true rest. It's a chance to stand up and stretch, a chance to walk to the window and just look outside, letting your eyes focus on something far away. It's a moment to get a glass of water, to close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths. It's an opportunity to let your nervous system downshift, even for just a few moments. When you structure your day like this, you are fundamentally changing its texture. Instead of a relentless, exhausting climb, your day becomes a series of gentle hills. You exert effort, and then you recover. You focus, and then you unfocus. You are teaching your mind, in a very real and practical way, that it is safe to switch off. You are practicing the art of disengagement over and over in small, manageable doses. This has a profound cumulative effect. By the time evening arrives, your mind isn't a tightly wound spring, desperate for release. It's a muscle that has been worked and then rested, worked and then rested, and now it's ready for a longer period of recovery. The off switch that felt so hard to find is no longer a mystery. You've been flicking it on and off all day. So when your head hits the pillow, that final switch into the quiet of sleep feels natural, familiar, and easy. It's simply the last, longest break in a day that was already full of them. Let's talk about an object that sits on many of our desks or lives on our phones that is a source of constant, low-grade stress. It's the to-do list. We create these lists with the best of intentions, thinking they will bring order and calm to our chaos. And in some ways, they do. But they come with a hidden psychological cost, one that becomes most apparent when the lights go out. The to-do list is, by its very nature, a document of failure. It is a constant, nagging reminder of everything you haven't done yet. It represents a gap between where you are and where you think you should be. All day long, it whispers to you about your obligations, your pending tasks, and your future work. It is an anchor permanently stuck in tomorrow. When you finally finish your day and try to relax, your brain doesn't just forget about that list. Instead, it often chooses that exact moment to review it. As you lie in bed, your mind's eye scrolls through the items you didn't check off. You don't think about the 7 things you accomplished, you fixate on the 3 that remain. The unchecked boxes feel like personal shortcomings. They create a feeling of being behind, a sense that the day's work isn't truly finished, because the list isn't empty. This creates a subtle but persistent anxiety, a feeling that you cannot fully rest because there is still work to be done. It's like trying to fall asleep in a room where someone is constantly reminding you that you have to wake up early. Sleep requires a feeling of safety and completion, and the to-do list is an enemy to both. So what if we flip that around? What if, instead of ending your day by focusing on the deficit, you ended it by acknowledging your accomplishments? This brings us to our 9th mind hack. At the end of your day, create a done list. This is the opposite of a to-do list. You don't write it in the morning to plan your day. You write it in the evening, as a way to reflect on the day that has passed. You take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone, and you write down everything you actually did. And here's the beautiful part. There are no rules for what qualifies. You are allowed to include everything, especially the small things that never would have made it onto a to-do list in the first place. Your done list might look something like this. Answered that difficult email to my cousin. Went for a 10-minute walk on my lunch break. Made the bed. Sat in the quiet and drank a whole cup of tea while it was still hot. Figured out the first step for that big project I've been avoiding. Listened to my friend talk about their bad day. Emptied the dishwasher. Read 10 pages of a book. These are not monumental achievements. They are small acts of living, of effort, of just getting through. But when you see them written down, they become real. They gain a weight and a substance that they don't have when they just exist as fleeting memories. You are creating tangible proof that your day was not a failure. It was full. This simple act of cataloging your accomplishments fundamentally changes the narrative of your day. It shifts your brain's focus from scarcity to abundance, from what's left to do to what has already been done. It provides a powerful sense of closure. As you write each item, you are mentally closing the file on it, acknowledging its completion. It is a ritual that tells your brain, the work of today is officially over. We are finished. When you look at your completed done list, there is no lingering obligation, only a quiet sense of satisfaction. It's an act of self-compassion, a way of giving yourself credit for your own effort. And when you finally turn off the light, that is the feeling that will stay with you. Not the nagging anxiety of an incomplete list, but the gentle, peaceful finality of a day that is, in fact, truly and completely done. We have arrived at our final mind hack, the one that ties everything else together. It is about how we finish our day. We've discussed all these small ways to manage the mental load that accumulates from morning to night. But all that good work can be undone if we don't handle the final transition carefully. Too many of us live our lives at full speed right up until the moment we get into bed. We are scrolling on our phones, answering a last-minute email, or watching an intense television show. And then we turn off the lights and expect our minds to just stop. It's like sprinting a 100-meter dash and expecting your heart rate and breathing to be calm the instant you cross the finish line. It simply doesn't work that way. The mind, just like the body, needs a cool-down period. It needs a gentle, deliberate process to move from the state of active engagement to a state of quiet rest. Think of it as creating a buffer zone, a protected period of time between your busy day and your desired sleep. This is your wind-down routine, and its purpose is to act as a clear signal to your entire nervous system that the time for doing is over and the time for being is beginning. The first and most powerful element of this routine involves managing your environment, specifically managing light. For all of our modern advancements, our brains are still running on very ancient software. That software has a simple rule. Bright, blue-tone light means the sun is up and it's time to be alert. Warm, dim, yellow-tone light means the sun is setting and it's time to prepare for rest. The screen on your phone, your tablet, your computer, they all emit a powerful blue light that actively tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, which in turn suppresses the release of melatonin, the very hormone your body produces to help you feel sleepy. So, the most important step you can take is to decide on a digital sunset. About an hour before you want to sleep, all the screens go off. The overhead lights get turned down, and you switch to a single, soft, warm lamp. This one change creates a profound shift in your environment, sending a powerful biological cue to your brain that the day is ending. The next layer of your wind-down routine is about lowering the cognitive load. It's not just about the light from screens. It's about the information they deliver. Your day is spent solving problems, taking in data, and forming opinions. If you continue to feed your brain stimulating content right up until bedtime, like the news, which is designed to trigger your threat detection systems, or social media, which can provoke comparison and anxiety, you are keeping it in problem-solving mode. You are asking it to keep working. The goal is to shift from active consumption to passive, gentle activity. This is the time to engage in things that are soothing, not stimulating. For some, this might be listening to very calm, ambient music without lyrics. For others, it might be doing some very light, restorative stretching, not a workout, but a gentle release of the physical tension that is built up in your neck, shoulders, and back throughout the day. Finally, the most effective wind-down routines are built on the power of ritual. A ritual is nothing more than a consistent sequence of actions that, over time, becomes an automatic trigger for your brain. When you do the same few things, in the same order, every single night, your mind learns the pattern. It begins to associate this sequence with the imminent arrival of sleep. This is incredibly calming because it removes the need for decision-making. Your ritual can be wonderfully simple. It might start with making a warm, non-caffeinated drink, like a cup of chamomile tea. The warmth of the mug in your hands becomes the first step in the sequence. From there, you might go into the bathroom to wash your face and brush your teeth. Then, perhaps you get into bed and read a few pages from a physical book. A novel works beautifully here because it allows you to step into another world for a little while, gently distracting you from the worries of your own. The specifics of the ritual are less important than its consistency. The point of this whole process isn't to force yourself to fall asleep. That is a battle you will never win. You cannot command sleep to arrive. Instead, the goal of a wind-down routine is to create the ideal conditions for sleep to show up on its own. You are putting out a welcome mat for it. You are dimming the lights, quieting the noise, soothing your body, and calming your mind. You are creating a predictable, safe, and peaceful sanctuary at the end of your day, a clear boundary that says, the work is done. By honoring this transition, you are making the final, kindest statement to yourself. You have done enough, and now it is time to rest. And so, we've come to the end of our 10 ideas. We've walked through a few different ways of looking at our day, a few gentle shifts in perspective that can help quiet the noise. You might have noticed a common thread running through all of them. None of these mind hacks are about adding more to your plate. They are not about becoming a more productive, more efficient machine. In fact, they are about the exact opposite. They are about subtraction. They are about gently taking things away. Each one is a way of removing a small mental burden, a way of closing an open loop or reframing a negative thought, or letting go of an unfinished task. Think of it like walking all day with a backpack on. With each little hack, you are just reaching in and taking out one small stone. It doesn't seem like much at the time, but by the end of the day, the load is noticeably lighter. The goal has never been to get more done. The goal has always been to arrive here, in this moment, with less to carry. And the very last thing I would want is for this list of 10 ideas to become another one of those burdens. Please, don't let this feel like another to-do list, another set of things you have to do perfectly. That is not the point at all. You don't have to do all of them. You don't have to master any of them. You might even forget them all by morning, and that is perfectly okay. Maybe just one of the ideas felt right to you. Maybe it was the simple act of writing down a worry to get it out of your head, or the idea of giving yourself permission to be good enough. Perhaps it was just the thought of bundling a chore with a podcast you love. If just one of these resonated, just let that single idea settle in your mind. That is more than enough. You have planted a small seed of a new way of thinking, and that is a beautiful thing. But for right now, there is nothing left to learn. There is nothing to remember and nothing to analyze. The work of the day is done. The work of this video is done. Your only job now is to just be here, to feel the weight of your body as it rests, to notice the gentle rhythm of your own breathing as it moves in and out without any effort from you at all. The words in this video can just fade away now. They were just here to keep your mind company for a little while, to give it a safe and a quiet place to land. And now that it has landed, their purpose is complete. So you can let them go. Let all the ideas and all the thoughts dissolve into the background. There is nothing else you need to do tonight. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is just the quiet of this moment, just the softness of your pillow. So just rest and breathe.
you.